family-owned shop in Loganville, Soesby's Garage for all your automotive repair needs. We service all makes and models, foreign and domestic. We repair engines, alternators, brakes, alignments, AC systems, and more, using certified technicians with over 90 years of combined experience. We also offer same-day service for some repairs. Soesby's Garage, 200 Bay Creek Road in Loganville. Dependable, honest, and fair. Look us up on Google or Facebook. We'll take good care of you.
Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. We are the cornerstone of security in the Southeast.
Hey, welcome everybody to Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. I'm your host, Rick Strawn, the president of Paradigm Security Services, and we're excited to be with you today on Business RadioX. We're coming to you from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio, located in the beautiful Sonesta Gwinnett Place Hotel in Duluth, Georgia. Each week we plan to feature businesses in the Atlanta area, especially those that serve Gwinnett County. While all businesses have security concerns, not all are about physical security, and we will touch on that and all related aspects as we move through the course of each show. Before I get started and introduce my guests, I want to do a little public service announcement. Gateway 85 Community Improvement District, they are having an online candidate forum via Zoom. Now, Gwinnett's nearing the 1 million residents, and with election looming later this year, it's imperative that you get out to know the candidates that are running for County Commission Chairman. Given the new statewide shelter-in-place restrictions, Gateway 85 CID is providing free access to an online candidate forum via Zoom. Now, the forum will be held on Wednesday, April the 22nd. It'll be from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And for details on the webinar, you can please register at www.gateway85.com/events. Again, that's Wednesday, April the 22nd, 6 to 7:30 p.m. The online candidate forum, looking at all the people that are running for County Commission Chairman in Gwinnett County, www.gateway85.com/events. I hope y'all go to that and see a little bit about everybody that's running. Well, I want to say thank you very much and introduce my guest, Mr. Bradley Carroll. Bradley is the CPA advisor. He's a CPA and he's a risk advisory principal, actually, for Frazier Deeter, as CPAs and advisors, which they also have a podcast, just to let everybody know, do a little plug for them on North Fulton Radio X. And I'll let him describe that a little bit to you in just a minute, tell you when and all that. But let me ask you, Bradley, who is Bradley Carroll? Where you come from? What in the world got you into doing this kind of stuff?
First, let me say thanks for having me, Rick, and hope that everybody listening is sheltering in place and heeding some warnings and being cautious out there. This is, coming from a risk advisor, looking at the risks that are out there and advising you to take some precautions. Bradley Carroll, Rick, I grew up in West Monroe, Louisiana, and most people who have heard of West Monroe is because of the Duck Dynasty clan. They had their own show and highlighted West Monroe quite frequently, so that's where I'm from. And yes, I did go to high school with those guys. So that's where I'm from. I graduated from the University of Louisiana Monroe there with a degree in accounting, and started as a internal auditor with a small bank. Central Bank was about $1 billion in assets. From there, I moved to Atlanta and went to work for Carter's Children's Wear. And so I was an internal auditor in manufacturing for a few years, and then went back into banking with Wachovia Bank. Was a little bit on the opposite end of the spectrum from Central Bank, where I had started. Wachovia, I think, was a $72 billion bank, so much larger. At that time, I had passed the CPA exam and decided I needed to give up banker hours for CPA hours. And it took me 14 years to realize that was a mistake. So I did spend 14 years in public accounting. I had owned my own firm, took on 2 partners, and sold the business to those 2 partners when an opportunity came up at State Bank in Atlanta. State Bank was a $5 billion bank that was 2 years old, and at the time it was about $3.5 billion when I joined. So I was brought in to start the internal audit department, and that was the dream job for my career at that time. Was to build that department, set the methodology, hire staff, and did that for going on 7 years until the bank was purchased. As the chief audit executive there, I had some co-sourcing opportunities to bring in some subject matter experts and just backfill some staffing for our audit plan. And I largely used Frazier and Deeter. So I knew their risk advisory team very well. And when the bank was acquired, Frazier Deeter asked if I'd like to join them. And so I looked at the opportunities that were presented to me, and I said to myself, who do I want to work with? Where can I see myself retiring at this point in my career? And the answers kept coming back to Frazier and Deeter. I like the people. The company is very people centric. I was a client and liked them from the client standpoint. So for the past year and a quarter now, I have been a principal in the risk advisory services, which we call process risk and governance, or for short PRG. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm still providing internal audit work along with some financial forensics and fraud examination work, some process work, walking through and documenting some processes and help people understand where their control points should be and where their biggest risks and their processes are. So I'm really enjoying the work. My primary focus is still on financial institutions and providing internal audit services to banks around the country.
So analyzing stuff is really right in your wheelhouse.
That seems to be, yes. And speaking of analyzing, we're really pushing a data analytics approach to our methodologies. We had done that at State Bank, and we're doing it at Frazier Deeter as well. And I'm currently, even at this point in my career, I'm currently working on my Master's of Business Administration in Data Analytics. Wow.
Well, let me ask you this. What services does Frazier and Deeter offer to clients?
Well, when you think of a CPA firm, most people think of taxes, and absolutely Frazier Deeter provides tax services, and we provide financial statement audit services. So those are the two bread and butters for most CPA firms. But the area I work in is like I said, process risk and governance. It's led by our head of department, Sabrina Seraphin, and we do all things risk advisory. So if a question comes in and it doesn't fit into audit or tax, a lot of times it goes to Sabrina and can PRG do this? So a lot of what we do are SOC reporting, which is SOC, Service and Organization Controls. So that is if a company is providing services to another company, and the second company wants to understand the internal control framework of the provider company, the provider company can provide them with a SOC report, an SOC report that lists the test and results of their internal control functions. So that's one thing we do a lot of. We do a lot of internal audits. So whether that is full scope internal audits, starting with outsourcing and developing an audit plan for the company, or if it's coming in and a bank wants me to come in and do a Bank Secrecy Act audit for them, very specific scope. We do a lot of SOX, SOX reporting. We have several large clients that is really it's internal controls on financial reporting, which all public companies have to do. We call it SOX, short for the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which implemented that requirement. And then, like I said, we do some fraud investigations. We do a lot of process enhancements and evaluations. So it's a lot of risk advisory and general business consulting that keep us really engaged and busy.
Well, we're going to talk a minute about the payroll protection program that's coming on and it's come online. We're doing, but you mentioned something about internal audits. Mm-hmm. What is it that distinguishes your internal audit program from everybody else? Because there's a lot of people out there doing internal audits.
Yeah, well, especially in the banking area, I would say that Frazier Deeter is uniquely positioned in the fact that they've got a former chief audit executive leading the financial services internal audit practice. You're not going to see that. You're going to see a lot of people who have worked in financial services on the financial audit side. So they know banking, but they don't know internal audit. We use a standards-based audit approach, which the Institute of Internal Auditors has the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. I speak on these standards at national and international conferences on behalf of the IIA. So to have someone who knows not only banking, but who is a recognized expert in standards-based internal auditing and who's a former chief audit executive at a financial institution, leading a team of experienced financial institution auditors. So it's not people who worked in the industry before, it's people who've worked in the industry in internal audit.
I'd say that's a pretty good difference. You get actually somebody that is a higher level than just the normal people that do audits. That are
Many times.
The structuring of it all the way through.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we mentioned something about the payroll protection plan. Tell people what the EIDL is and how the payroll protection program is different.
Okay, so the EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That's the first program that came out, and that is where you apply directly for funding from the U.S. Treasury. So there's two people involved. There's a borrower and there's the U.S. Treasury. So that is a specifically funded program, and the key feature that most people know about that program is that once you apply, you can then apply for emergency relief in the tune of a $10,000 payment. Now, they've said that payment will be dispersed within 3 days. And as clients are finding out, that means 3 days from when the Treasury opens the file, not 3 days from when you apply.
It's 3 days from the day you get it. That was 3 days ago.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So people who've applied last week still have not gotten their $10,000. So what's interesting about that is that $10,000 is to be there to immediately stimulate while they're looking at approving your loan. So there's grace on that $10,000 though, that even if you do not get an EIDL, you still get to keep the $10,000. It really becomes a grant. So that the EIDL is between the borrower and the Treasury. The Paycheck Protection Program is through an SBA lender. So it is a traditional format for an SBA loan. You go to an SBA lender, which most financial institutions are going to have SBA lenders. There are some what I'll call non-bank SBA lenders. So you've got a variety of different SBA lenders. And the SBA lender will take your application. The SBA lender will approve the loan because the SBA lender is funding the loan. It's not being funded by Treasury. Now, while it's 100% guaranteed by the Treasury, the bank still has to fund the loan after they approve the loan, and then they submit it to Treasury and get a confirmation number that you are part of the $349 billion pool that is eligible for forgiveness. And let me tell you about forgiveness. So while the EIDL has a wider range of expenditures that the proceeds of the loan can be used on, the PPP is very narrowly focused on how you can use those proceeds. And you have to use them over an 8-week period after you get the loan. If you use them in accordance with the provisions specified in the program, you can have that loan forgiven. And I want to say that again, you can turn around and give a separate application to your bank for loan forgiveness. And that's where the SBA comes in, and that's when they fund it. They will pay the bank back to pay off your loan.
Now, you said something about 8 weeks.
Yes. So the PPP is designed to cover expenses for payroll and certain other things for an 8-week period after you get the loan.
And that was also with the is that the part where the number of employees still has to remain the same?
That is correct. So there is several tests that we have to go through as we're looking at how you spent that money, which includes making sure you haven't cut employees, or if you have cut employees, you've rehired them. And it also deals with salary reductions, so that you can't have significant salary reductions and get the full amount of forgiveness. Now, what happens if you don't get the full amount forgiven? The downside is that you have a 1% loan for 2 years, and you get a 6-month deferral of having to pay any part of it. So if you don't get your loan forgiven, you still have a very low interest rate loan for the next 2 years.
That's pretty good. What was the 6-month?
The 6 month is once you get the loan,
Mm-hmm.
you the payments are deferred for 6 months.
Oh, okay. And if you paid it off, prepaid it within that 6 months, will you still pay 1% on that 6 months?
No, there is no prepayment penalty. So if you pay it off, then you pay the accrued interest to that date.
That would be great. So there wouldn't have been any interest in that first 6 months.
Well, you still accrue interest. You don't have to pay it. So but the interest is also forgiven for the forgiven portion. If you have a portion that's not forgiven, just that piece of it, you would pay when you pay it off, you would pay the 1% on that piece.
1% is still not bad money.
Not at all.
I know my wife, Susan, she's co-owner of the Paradigm and also formerly the CPA. She's CFO with us. And I know she's gone through and doing the paperwork with us just to make sure that we're covered on, we're a small business like a lot of other people. And we're a people business. So we have, ours are employees.
Mm-hmm.
And with our businesses, we have things like hotels and so forth that are really, really hurting. And of course, they can't really afford to pay security. So we have been so fortunate as to be able to shift people around so that we haven't had to lay off anybody. We haven't had to fire anybody. We haven't had to really, if they want hours, they got hours because we got stuff coming on. But I know for a lot of companies, that's just not possible.
That's correct.
A lot of these restaurants and stuff like that, and they're really, really, really hurting.
Yeah, Rick, you're in a very fortunate position. If you take a step back and look at what the legislation was just originally designed for, to get out the details of it, it was designed to keep people employed.
Exactly.
So that's why you look at the 8-week period is that the government is giving these loans, which could be grants, to keep people employed, fully employed, for the next 8 weeks. And hopefully by then we're past this pandemic and we can start returning to life as we know it.
And, as far as looking at the 4 to 8 weeks, they're talking about another package, the possibility. So, the likelihood that that's going to extend if we do, which I hope it's not there, because our economy needs to get back to work. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. We need to get back to work. We can't do this forever. So that being said, if that is there and they do something else, I'm sure that it will extend to those people past that 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, they're talking. The Treasury is asking Congress for another $250 billion package for the PPP. So, because this program is supposed to go, it started April 3rd and it's supposed to go to June 30th. Well, as of I think it was yesterday, the Small Business Administration said that there had been 265,000 applications that banks had submitted and reserved part of the funding for, to a tune of $71 billion.
Wow.
So that started on Friday. So you had Friday applications, Monday applications, and Tuesday applications. So that $71 billion is locked out of 349. So that is already 1/5 in the first 3 days of applications being accepted. 1/5 of the funds are gone.
That's amazing.
So this isn't going to last till June 30th. Is my point I'm making. So if they put in another $250 billion, it'll extend it, but I don't know that it would extend it out still to June 30th when the program officially closes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of businesses out here that are really hurting. My biggest thing is I hope that everything is kept under enough analysis, looking at it and analyzing it to where only the people that really need it are the ones that get it. The ones that don't need it don't use it. I mean, and that's going to be a lot of integrity issues.
Yeah, well, Rick, if you look at it's really a one-page application is what it boils down to. It's streamlined. It's a one-page application, but the second page is a list of certifications. And you need to read those certifications closely, because the second certification on there does really hit home on that point, is that do you need this loan to support your business? It doesn't say do you need it to save your business. So it doesn't mean that you would go out of business if you didn't get it, in my opinion, but you are certifying to that you need this money because of the economic downturn to support your business.
Well, and the business that need to get it.
Yes.
I'm all for that. Like I say, we could have been in 2007, 2008, we were in an entirely different position.
Yeah.
Because at that point, our main work was major construction, and major construction totally went away. I mean,
sure.
Just nothing. So we had to completely revise business plans and go, and we could have used something like this back then. But again, we managed to survive that. We didn't really ever lay anybody off. We just started redoing and targeting something else. So God has blessed us on that. So we've been
wonderful.
Who is actually eligible? We kind of touched on it there, but who is actually eligible to apply for the PPP?
Well, I'm going to use general terms because, as with any government program, there's always devil in the details.
Yep.
So generally speaking, a small business is a business that has less than 500 employees. So there are underlying SBA rules that govern across all of these programs, including this one, that they call their affiliation rules. So if you have common ownership or common control, then you're an affiliated company, and you have to consider the employees there as well as the employees at the company you're applying for. So you have to read and understand, and again, that's another certification you have to make as a borrower, is that I understand the affiliation rules and my application is in compliance with those rules. So generally speaking, a small business is one under 500 employees. Now, if you're in what we call NACE Code 72, which is hospitality and restaurants, you can have more than 500 employees. So again, generally speaking, there's 500 employees unless you're in restaurant and hospitality, and then you can potentially have more than that 500.
Well, that's kind of the situation that, for instance, this wonderful hotel that I'm in right now, the Sonesta, they're one of the ones that are hurting. I mean, their business, it's just nobody. They definitely have rooms to let. Put it that way.
Well, with shelter-in-place orders, it's very hard to have a travel and hospitality business.
Oh, absolutely, and it's something that I hope will be over with for them real quick. How have banks responded to the rush of applicants? How have they really handled it, and how they're responding to it?
Well, Rick, that's all over the spectrum. Some larger banks actually refused to take applications on Friday because there were so many questions still outstanding about how do you calculate the payroll, because the average monthly payroll is the basis for determining your loan amount. But there were a lot of questions about how to calculate that. So many banks didn't start taking applications till Monday until they could get better clarification on that. Some banks were building an interface so that they didn't have to take paper applications. They could have borrowers input into their own system, which would generate the paper application that the SBA required. Some banks are not participating. Some banks are saying we'll make loans to our existing customers only. And then there's other banks who are saying we're going to help out anybody and everybody we can. Please send us referrals for people who are looking for an SBA lender. So they're all over the place, large and small banks. I do know that some small banks are already hitting their capital limits. Like I said earlier, these banks are funding these loans out of their own capital. So some small banks are already hitting their capital limits, and while they would like to do more loans, they can't.
Don't have money. That's
right. They're legally required to stop at a certain limit. So there will be some relief where the SBA it says that you can package and sell these loans to the government, which will free up some capital. But by that time, the original $349 billion may be gone. Yeah. So they still can't lend anymore.
Well, I think then it was really important that one of the things that people need to know out there is it's not, a mandatory thing for a bank to do these loans.
Absolutely.
They have to understand that. So don't get mad and angry if you go to your particular bank and that bank is not doing it, that they basically don't have the capital to be able to. It's just like with us. You don't have the people to staff your regular clients, so you have to turn down new clients sometimes. And it's just like with them. You can't. They've got to take care of their existing customers. So
absolutely,
don't be mad at them.
Absolutely correct.
Go to another bank.
and like I said, I have talked to probably more than a dozen different SBA lenders over the past 10 days, and know some who are not taking applications and some who are welcoming applications.
Well, we keep relations with several banks.
Yeah.
As a business, we may not even have an account there, but we have relationships with them, and so that if the bank that we normally use, which is Renaissance in our case, then we don't have, if they can't do something, which so far I haven't found anything they can't do, but we haven't asked them about this yet either. So,
well, John Daly is over there, and he is the director of SBA lending. He's a former state banker. We were there together, and John is one of the ones that I have talked to this past week. John's a great guy. Been in SBA lending for a long time.
John's a good guy, and that everybody. They're one of our clients as well, and everybody over there has always been fantastic people to work with, and I love being a part of their team. But getting back to the other part, it's a matter of just understanding that people can, go somewhere else, talk to them. You don't necessarily have to move all of your stuff to another bank. Just go to them and talk to them about what you need, because they're all going to reap the quote unquote benefit in the end of getting stuff paid off or getting stuff. They'll get their money. So. Yeah.
Well, and Rick, one of the things I would say is that if you do have to go to a new bank to get this PPP, many of them would ask that you open a deposit account with them. And I think that's a great idea, and have the proceeds from that loan go into that deposit account, and don't write any of the checks out of there except for the approved expenditure. So when it comes time to ask for forgiveness of the loan and you need to show how you spent the money, you've got 2 bank statements and the canceled checks there to show this is how I spent the money. So it's almost like a separate ledger, and instead of commingling it with your operating account, you can very clearly show that these are the proceeds and this is how I spent them.
So you're not saying anything like do proper accounting, right? So do the proper accounting.
Absolutely. Make it easy on yourself.
Call y'all. You can let them know what they need to do.
Absolutely.
Oh, I tell you, that's funny. What role does Frazier Deeter play in the actual payroll protection program? What is your role in this?
Well, Rick, a lot of it is what we've been doing right here, just education. I've spoken to over 150 clients over the past 10 days, or partners who have spoken to their clients after running things past me. So a lot of it is just education, helping to calm some fears and get past some anxiety. But on the back end, on the forgiveness portion, the CFO, CEO is going to have to sign a certification that says they use the funds appropriately. Well, before they put their name on that, and the SBA and the OIG has said that they're going to be investigating fraud in this. So before you put your signature on that saying, I certify this is how we use the funds,
deciding whether
Frazier Deeter has a team of former bank auditors, as I said earlier, that we're standing up a program and to come in and look at how you spent those funds. And we're going to give you an opinion letter that says, in our opinion, you're eligible for this much of forgiveness based on how you've spent these funds. And so that's the role we're looking to play, is coming in and helping the businesses put the bank at ease. Absolutely. Put the bank at ease, saying these funds were spent appropriately. And they've got Frazier Deeter's name on the letterhead and my signature on the letter.
Stamp of approval.
Absolutely.
Well, and in any business, when you do that audit and so forth, getting that stamp of approval from the auditing company is very important if you ever get to have reviews and have to have questions that come up. That's the quick way through it, the easy way through it, and the painless way through it. Got that stamp, I can tell you.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. Where are Frazier Deeter's offices located?
Well, we've got an office in Midtown Atlanta, and then in Alpharetta, which is where I sit when I'm in the office. We also have offices in Tampa, Charlotte, Las Vegas, Nashville, London, New York, Philadelphia, and Minneapolis. So we have clients throughout the nation. We have clients in South America and in Europe. We send teams over to do audits there. So we're truly an international firm with an international client base.
Fantastic. I guess pretty much your shelter in place is all over with just about everywhere you are then.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, that's well, we can always put a prayer in for all the people that are suffering.
Absolutely.
And all the people that are going to suffer before it's over with. How would people get in touch with you or with Frazier Deeter if they want to get in touch with y'all and start asking questions and deciding whether this is something that they need to do or how you can help them?
Yeah. So the best way, we've got some information on our website, FrazierDeeter.com. That's FrazierDeeter.com. There's a link to a COVID-19 webpage once you go to our main page. And I'm putting updates out there 2 or 3 times a week based on what I'm hearing. There is a article out there that has a link to my email. So if you click on my name, it will bring up my email. If you're at the Frazier Deeter webpage, you can click on people, look up Bradley Carroll, and it'll have my phone number and email there as well. Email's easy, Bradley.Carroll, that's 2 R's and 2 L's, at FrazierDeeter.com. And my phone number is 404-253-7566.
Well, fantastic. Well, I appreciate so much you coming on.
Absolutely.
It's been a good educational and experience for me, as well as I'm sure for anybody listening to it. And it's something that we all need to know because this has still got time to play out. I mean, we're not to the end of where we're going on this.
Nope.
Well, again, I want to thank you very much. I want to say a little quick plug for my sponsor, Soulsby's Garage, out at 200 Bay Creek Road in Loganville, Georgia, a 678-825-2127. Give him a call. He is dependable, honest, and fair, and he even keeps a clean lobby and everything. They are, I will say, on a little bit of if they're taking a 14-day isolation. So this is the first week into their 14 days, so they'll be a week before they're back open. I've already needed them about 3 times, and that we're on the phone with them. But anyway, go see John. Give him a call. So thank you for joining us on Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. Remember, you can join us live on Wednesdays at 11:30 in the morning. Or you can listen to us on our radio show anytime you want by going to businessradiox.com, clicking on the Gwinnett Studio, and, of course, click on Case in Point. This is one you want to make sure your friends listen to, and anybody that's in business, have them give this one a shout and listen at. Join us next week at 11:30 when we will talk with business leaders about their businesses and related security issues in today's world. And thanks again to my guest, Bradley Carroll with Frazier Deeter, and I appreciate it very much. For my producer, Mike, and Miss Amanda, I am Rick Strawn, and remember, at Paradigm Security Services, we cover more than just your assets.